Hello everyone, welcome back to the Quant Tutor. Today we'll be continuing with question number 4 from the paper Edexcel P1, Jan 2022. All right, we see that there's a figure in the question here, right? The figure we can see has a line and a curve. We know that the equation of the line is x plus 6, x plus y is equals to 6, and the equation of the curve is y is equals to 6x minus 2x squared plus 1. So our objective here is to find the points where both of these lines intersect, right? And we know that one of the line is P and one of the line is Q, right? Now, what we know about these points are they are the same for both, right? So this point will be the same at the curve and it will be the exact same as at the line, right? So we know that the y value at that point is the same, right? So what we can do is we can first equate the y values together. But in order to do that, first let's rearrange the equation of the line to make y subject. So y is equals to 6 minus x, right? And then we also have the equation of the line, which is y is equals to, of the curve, sorry, is y is equals to 6x minus 2x squared plus 1. Now we want to equate both these curves together, right? Because we know that the y's are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this here, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue that and I'm going to say 6x minus 2x squared plus 1 is equals to 6 minus x. Now let's rearrange this equation so that we get a nice quadratic curve, right? So let's make minus 2x squared plus 6x plus 1. Now I'm going to move both of these things on the right to the left. So their signs are going to change. So it's going to be minus 6 plus x is equals to 0, right? And now let's combine the similar variables together. So minus 2x squared remains as such. 6x you can add this with x, right? So that will give you plus 7x. And then 1 minus 6 will give you minus 5 is equals to 0. Because we have x as negative, like x squared is negative, it's not a very ideal thing. So let's take out the negative from here and then take it out, put it in the other side, right? So what we can do is to say minus 2x squared minus 7x plus 5 is equal to 0. And then basically the negative sign goes there, and then we have the equation 2x squared minus 7x plus 5 is equals to 0. All right. Now, for us to proceed with this, we need to factorize this equation. So the way that I do, everyone has different ways of doing it. But what I do is I will first multiply this and this together, which will give me 10, right? And then now I need to find two numbers that when I add up, I will get minus 7. But when I multiply, I will get 10, right? So I know that 5 2s are 10. Now I need to get minus 7 as well. So I'm going to use minus 2 and minus 5. Okay, so now I'm going to replace minus 7x with minus 2x and minus 5x. Okay, so the next part here is going to be 2x squared minus 2x minus 7x plus 5 is equal to 0. Now if I factorize this, I will get 2x minus 1 minus 7x. Sorry, I realized that I replaced the wrong value here. This is supposed to be 5, right? I had to replace both. So I'm going to make the change here as well. And this will be minus 5x minus 1 is equals to 0, right? So what I get here is 2 minus 5x if I factorize it further, and x minus 1 is equals to 0. And then from here, what I will get, let me reduce the size of these things so I can have a bit more space to continue the question. Let's make it smaller. Okay, and now let's look at this. So now we have 2 minus 5x multiplied by x minus 1 equals to 0. So that means that we have 2 minus 5x is equals to 0 and x minus 1 is equals to 0. So this is going to give me x is equals to 5 over 2, and this one is going to give me x is equals to 1. Now I can input these x values into either of these equations. I can put it into this one or into this one, and it will give me the same answer. I'm going to put it in the equation of the line just so that I get it's easier to do it. There's lesser variables. So the y corresponding to this, will basically be sorry. So the y for 5 over 2 will be 6 minus 5 over 2, right? So it's going to be 6 minus 5 over 2, which is basically 7 over 2. Oh, sorry. So 6 minus, so 12, and I will get 7 over 2. Okay. And if I put 6 minus 1, right, for this x, then I will get 5. And there you go. I have my coordinates now. So my coordinates are okay, now I also need to identify which one is the p coordinate and which is the q coordinate. So let's start with p coordinate. So the p coordinate now is obviously going to be the one that is where the x is closer to 0, right? So which x is bigger? 5 over 2 is bigger than 1. So that means that p has to be 1, and then the y value is 5 corresponding to that. Q is 5 over 2 and 7 over 2. And there you go. That's your answer. Let's now move on to the next part. All right. So for part B, what they are asking is that the region R shown in figure 1 is bounded by C, L, and the x-axis, right? So we want to use inequalities to define this region R. So we have 3 lines, right? So we have one line here, change the color of it. So we have one line here, we have one line here, and then we have one line here, right? So technically, three equations of inequality will be enough to define this. Okay, so the first inequality that we definitely know, right, is that R is a positive region, right? So the y in positive, the y here is always positive, right? Because we know that that's the x-axis, right? That's the y-axis. So R is bounded by the x-axis, right? So it doesn't go below the x-axis. That means that it's always positive. So we know for sure that y is greater than equals to 0. So this is one equation. So this is one equation. Okay. So this is the equation that is set by this line. Okay, the boundary by this line. Now we get on to our second equation, which let's say it's by the line here. Okay, so it's by the straight line. So we know that the straight line's equation is y is equals to 6 minus x, right? We have rearranged this since before. Now, when you know this equation, when you know this y equation, right, and when we look at this line here, anything that is below, so let's say that this is the line, anything that is below this line is lesser than this, right? So it means that it's lesser than y. Anything that is above this line will be greater than y. Anything below here will be lesser than y. Okay, so less than y and greater than y. So now we know that the R region is down, right? So y has to be less than this line, right? Because what this equation is saying is defining the exact line, right? So if we go below this line, we know that the y of these points here will definitely be lesser, will be smaller than the y of this line here, right? So we can say that this equation now is going to be y is less than equals to 6 minus x. Okay, so this is our equation number 2. Okay, now you, based on these two questions, try to pause this video and try to think about what the final inequality will be, which is the line that we have not taken into account yet, and will it be greater or will it be lesser than y? So take your time, pause it, think about it. I'm going to tell the answer now. So we know that the region R is, I'm going to erase this first, and now I'm going to show here that region R here is after this, is to the right of this line, correct? And so anything that is to the right of this is going to have a larger y value, right? And because anything that is inside here is going to have a smaller y value, anything that is outside here is going to have a larger y value, right? So in this case now, we are going to say that the y here is greater than equals to 6 minus 2x squared plus 1, right? And this is going to be our third equation for this. We can also consolidate these two, right? And say that because you know that y is less than 1, y is greater than 1, so we can also write it as this. We can say that y is greater than 6 minus 2x squared plus 1, and then we can also say that y is less than 6 minus x, right? So we can say that this is our one equation and this is another equation, right? So in total we have 3 equations, but I have consolidated the last 2 equations just to make it look a bit more elegant. So here's your answer. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and there'll be more videos coming on.